Welcome to the future of music. You will create nothing.
Yeah, we know that there are some copyrighted works in our training data.
You will inspire no one.
I don't know any AI-relevant artists.
Your skills, hard work, and talents will no longer matter.
Spending months working on 10 songs from morning to night, when whoever generated this song did so in seconds.
And nobody will care.
We were listening to an entirely AI-generated playlist. No one notices or cares.
The age of human creativity and pursuit of achievement and greatness is over. Sit back and relax. I'll fill your brain with a perfect mix of dopamine-inducing slop that keeps you just satisfied enough to never have to struggle to achieve anything on your own again. Enjoy.
Hypothetically, what if I wanted to use AI to destroy music, art, content creation, or any other creative endeavor? To obliterate the very concept that human expression has value. What do you think the most efficient way to do that would be? Maybe a 5-step checklist? The year is 1913, and your trade is building cars. At this point in time, to build an automobile, you need an extremely specialized skill set. You have to oversee the entire process from start to finish and be able to solve any problem that comes up. But here's the problem. You're slow. It takes you and a small group of other craftsmen 12.5 hours just to build one Model T. And you just can't keep up with the demand. The people want more cars, and they want them now. You could train more workers, but it would take them years to master the skill set that you have. So your boss comes up with a different solution. You walk into work one day and see an assembly line has been put up overnight. Next to the assembly line are a bunch of stations, and you notice your name next to one of them, along with a sign with your new job description. Gas tank installer. Your buddies Jim and Tim, who were also master craftsmen, have been assigned to wheel installer and bolt tightener, respectively. The complex task of assembling an automobile has been reduced to a bunch of tiny, repeatable, and much less complicated tasks. Now this new system immediately quadruples the production of cars and cuts the time to build a car down from 12.5 hours to 2.5 hours. But you're left feeling a little empty. You used to be a master craftsman, a sought-after skill set that took years to master, but now you're a gas tank installer. Your skills have been made obsolete, and your highly skilled labor can now be replaced with very low-skilled labor. So is that a good thing? From the outside looking in, it's nothing but positive. More cars means cheaper cars, which means more people get cars, which makes life easier and better for just about everyone. Everyone except for that master craftsman. And throughout the 20th and 21st century, you could point out this process of de-skilling happening in industry after industry. But people always at least remained a part of the process. Even as machines started to take some of the low-skilled labor that was present in the car example, humans still solved the problems when they came up and drove innovation. Their critical thinking and creativity is what kept them employed and valuable. But now AI threatens to replace even that. Creativity itself is not something that I thought would ever be under threat from computers even 10 years ago. Musicians, artists, content creators, writers, actors, filmmakers are all jobs that I would have considered safe from automation because they involve the level of creativity that computers are just not capable of. A few years ago, an artist would use an iPad to assist with their work, but I doubt they were thinking that that same iPad would be taking their job before they knew it. But with generative AI, that is quickly becoming the new reality. These creative jobs and disciplines that used to be reserved for highly skilled humans can now be done by AI, and they can be done faster, cheaper, and more efficiently than any person could hope to do. And how exactly AI does that and the consequences of that will be discussed more at length later. What used to take a decade or more of training and months of additional effort can now be done in under a minute.
In the midst of me spending months working on 10 songs from morning to night, when whoever generated this song did so in seconds without giving a single shit about music as a craft.
All of that effort to learn and practice an instrument, study scores and songwriting, learn compositional techniques and learn theory is now reduced to a 1 or 2 sentence text prompt that frankly anybody could do that can write and complete sentences. In fact, you don't even need to use a complete sentence. So what's the point of learning these skills anymore? If it can be done so easily by a computer, is creating obsolete? At least we have our inspirations and heroes to look up to. Why do you look up to your favorite musicians? Maybe you're one of these people. But for most of us, it probably comes down to their skills. Either it's their creative skills in their quality of their songwriting, improvisation, or use of a digital audio workstation, or it's their instrumental skills, their virtuosic technique. And why do we look up to these skills? I can't speak for everyone, but I can say for a lot of people, myself included, they look up to these skills because we recognize the amount of time and effort and struggle it took to get to where they are. For me as a bass player, I look up to people like Joel Quarrington and Xavier Foley, not just because their end product is amazing, but because I understand the amount of time, effort, and struggle that went into that end product. Their achievement and work ethic inspires me to do better myself, and that makes me respect them. And the same can be said for other disciplines as well. I look up to creators such as Charles Cornell and Adam Neely, not just because I like their videos, but because I understand the insane amount of time and effort that went into their content. But what if, just for fun, we took away all of that effort and struggle that got these people to where they are? What if you found out that instead of sinking years of time and effort into their craft, they just typed what they wanted into an AI generator, and that AI spit out their content in a couple minutes? Would you still be inspired by them? Would you still even respect them? I'd say no. I wouldn't have any respect for them anymore at all. And obviously this is just an example, I'm not actually accusing them of doing this. But this lack of inspiration and heroes to look up to is going to compound on the problem mentioned in part 1. At this moment, we still have inspiring people such as Adam Neely and Charles Cornell that we can look up to that don't abuse these tools. But how much longer is that going to last? When there are no heroes or inspiring people left, and all of these skills are becoming obsolete, how many people are realistically going to struggle for years in pursuit of music, art, content creation, writing, or any other creative endeavor? I'd bet not all that many. Now, you might argue that people would still be inspired by AI artists or prompt rock stars, which is one of the funniest things I've ever heard. But the Suno AI subreddit, as well as a survey conducted by Adam, can be seen as a microcosm of what's to come. In his video, Suno, AI Music, and the Bad Future, Adam poses several questions to his audience about AI music. The third question he asks is, who are some of your favorite AI musicians who have influenced you, and what about them inspires you? And the answers that he received are pretty dismal. Almost everyone answered that they have no AI music influences, or they don't listen to AI music that has been generated by other people. And the Suno AI subreddit shows that this sentiment goes beyond just the people that answered his survey. In here you can find tons of examples of uninspired AI people. But this quote left me with the most dread. When everyone can make their own music to his own taste, there are no reasons to listen to other people's music other than to get ideas and prompts for your own music. Welcome to the future of music. Back to our car example. Imagine working in this new conveyor belt system for a few years. This is no longer new, this is the industry standard. The intense training of the old guard master craftsmen is a thing of the past, and all of the new generations of workers were only trained on the hyper-specific small task on the assembly line. Gas tank installer, bolt tightener, etc. Then one day, the workers come in to find that the plant has closed down, or even worse, they've been replaced by machines. And now their very tiny skill set is all but useless. Someone with the wide skill set of the old guard could probably leverage it to pivot to something else. But what is the gas tank installer supposed to do? Hope that he can find a job at another plant that uses the exact same process and install some more gas tanks before that gets replaced as well? In a hypothetical not so distant future, when there are no musicians, no composers, no songwriters, no content creators, no movie directors, and we are all using ChatGPT 54 to generate all of our thoughts and ideas, what happens if these systems shut off? What happens if the owner of these systems decides to take them away? What happens when musicians are no longer able to compose without Suno? When writers can't write without GPT? Or when creators can't create without Sora? Either because they never bothered to learn these skills in the first place because they were all made obsolete, or because they are unable to think creatively on their own thanks to the AI brain rot. By abusing these tools and not bothering to learn these skills ourselves, we are giving these AI generators a level of control over the media unlike anything else. They own the means of production, and they have the ability to control what comes out of these generators. Right now, if you hate my videos, if you disagree with my views, you have the choice to watch someone else. or even to create something yourself. But what happens when every video on this platform is generated by Sora AI? What happens when Sora does something you don't agree with? Are you going to use Sora to criticize Sora? Is that even allowed? And this might sound overly dramatic, and maybe at this point in time it is, but there is already an epidemic on every social media site with AI flooding it to the point where you can't go 30 seconds without seeing it. And if we continue on this path, this problem is just going to get worse and worse, to the point where it's no longer viable for humans to continue. Where does AI actually get its ideas? How does it manage to generate all of this content? Unfortunately, it's not magic. At least that would be cool. No, it does it by training on previously existing media, video, music, art, etc. The AI gets loaded with millions of examples of previously completed work, analyzes it, notices patterns in it, compiles all of this data, and then spits out new information based on all the data and patterns it's collected. Or to simplify it, it analyzes things and then spits back out combinations of little, or sometimes not so little, pieces of each one. And that might sound familiar, as that's pretty similar to the way that humans learn, but we'll get a little more into that in a minute. But first, let's take a look at a very serious flaw in the way that generative AI is being trained and used. Let's say, for example, someone decides to take every song from an artist like Sum 41, one of my favorites, and then puts all of that into an AI machine learning program. The AI then analyzes every song in their discography in just a couple minutes, and then you tell the AI to generate songs that are in the same style and sound as Sum 41. You then take these songs and put them out as your own and profit off them. And since you just got a whole bunch of free engagement off songs that you didn't make, the next step is to generate even more songs. Generate songs so fast that the actual band could never keep up. The audience is obviously going to get quite excited about all this new music, and they may even stop listening to Sum 41 entirely and instead just listen to your AI slop because you can publish music 3 times a day. Essentially what you just did is you used AI to steal someone else's sound, all of their ideas, all of their work, and then created a market replacement that you can mass produce at a rate that they could never keep up with, and drive the actual artists out of the marketplace. Not a very nice thing to do, to say the least. Now, if you're doing this with copyrighted works, it's probably illegal. I say probably because this is a gray area in copyright law, because something like this has never actually happened before. But if you're asking my opinion, it absolutely should be.
Before moving to the next section, I just wanted to say that Suno and UDIO have settled respective lawsuits that are relevant to this, so I'm not exactly sure if that means that this practice is now illegal or not. I'm not a lawyer, so take any law speak with a grain of salt. Also, you will see this background a few times. I'm sure you can guess what it's for.
But up until 2024, AI companies such as Suno and UDIO were doing this completely unchecked, taking tens of millions of copyrighted works without permission to train their AI models, until a lawsuit temporarily halted their progress. And we'll get more into that lawsuit in a minute, but let's first address the elephant in the room. Why is this okay for people to do, but not okay for AI to do? Earlier I mentioned that the way that AI learns and the way that people learn are similar, and there is a grain of truth to that. A large part of the reason that I can play the bass at the level that I do is because I trained on repertoire, songs, and exercises that were all written by other people. Not to mention the knowledge and expertise of my teachers that was passed down to me by them, and their teachers before them, and their teachers before them, etc. And I'm no composer, but when I do write a little melody for myself or for my YouTube channel, you could say that I'm taking inspiration from everything that I have ever listened to or played in my life. I notice patterns, I take what I like, and I throw away the rest. And in fact, I do the same thing with content. This video was obviously inspired by a bunch of other music YouTubers that are speaking out on the same issue. And if I'm calling AI a thief, what does that make me? Am I also a thief? Well, in my opinion, and I hope yours as well, the answer is no. And I think that's for 2 main reasons. The first, and hopefully most obvious reason, is me. My music, my bass playing, and my content is more me than it is any of those other things or influences. I take bits from others, but the majority of what is happening here is my hard work, effort, and time spent. Not to mention all of the boring stuff like my personality and all of my life experiences. I cannot make a piece of content or music without including pieces of myself in that process. Someone else could look at all of the same sources I did, follow the same process I did, but then spit out a completely different video because we are all unique. But AI is not unique. AI just combines bits and pieces from others, but it doesn't have its own personality, its own work ethic, its own financial struggles, or a dead relative that it's trying to get over. It's just a soulless, lifeless machine finding new ways to steal from everything around it. I'm starting to feel like Sarah Connor. And the second main reason that there's a difference is the level of thievery that's going on here. Tens of millions of copyrighted works are being analyzed and spit out by Suno, and tens of millions more by UDIO every year. I've drawn from many sources over the course of my life, but this is happening at a scale that I couldn't replicate if I was the most shameless plagiarist to ever live. Now, this level of thievery had a wrench thrown into it in 2024. Sony Music, Universal Music Group, and Warner Records sued them. But if you know anything about these companies and their own history of copyright abuse and exploitation of artists, it's pretty hard to believe that they were being pure with their intentions, and of course they weren't. They didn't sue because they were really trying to protect their artists. They sued because they saw these AI models making a shitload of money and they wanted their piece of the pie. They made it so that these AI companies had to license out the songs that they were going to use for a fee to train their AI. So essentially the same thing that was happening before is still happening now, but now Sony Music gets to take a piece of the pie. Problem solved, right? I'm sure that's what everybody wanted. The damage, however, had pretty much already been done by 2024. These AI models had already been trained on tens of millions of copyrighted works before that point, and as of this video, Suno has not been compelled to delete the data that they collected before 2024. To the credit of the music companies, they gave their artists the option to opt out of their music being used to train AI. But unfortunately, the AI doesn't need literally every piece of music ever to train on. It just needs a lot. And it already has a lot. And of course, many artists probably opted into this because if they didn't, they would miss out on a paycheck. And of course, this doesn't even take into the account the smaller artists that don't have the protection of a record label or the resources that would be required to protect their copyright in court. But would you believe that it gets even worse? Because it does. So I want you to ask yourself something. Who exactly owns the songs that are generated in Suno? When I type a prompt in the text box and Suno spits out the song, did I just create that song? Or did Suno? Is it mine? Can I use it in the background of my videos? Or can I sell it? Mikey Schulman, Suno's CEO, may be trying to pander to people by calling it a collaborative effort.
I would never want to force somebody to let their fans interact with their work. Music is meant to be shared between people. Collaborative, okay. Created, not just one person, riffed on.
But let's not kid ourselves. Suno's AI machine is doing the work of creating that slop behind the scenes. But luckily, Suno very clearly answers this very important question for us on their website, right? It appears that from September 24 to December 2025, Suno stated this in regards to their policy on ownership and copyright of the songs you generate on their platform. If you were on a free plan, Suno continued to own the songs that you generated, meaning that you could only use them for non-commercial purposes. But if you were on one of their paid plans, you were considered the owner of the songs you generated. But towards the end of December and the beginning of January, it appears that they may have been trying to be a little sneaky behind the scenes. The same article was changed to say this.
Now this section has now changed to read the following, relating to Suno. You may be granted commercial use rights, which allow you to reproduce, copy the songs to sell, distribute, etc. And the second bullet now reads, even with granted commercial use rights, you generally are not considered the owner of the songs since the output was generated by Suno.
Okay, but how is that different? Well, it means that they grant you a license to use the song, but they still own it. And they can revoke that license. So let's say you just happen to generate something that becomes extremely commercially successful. Well, they own it, you just have the license. So they could just take your license away and collect all the revenue from that. Maybe you have the money to fight that in court, but I bet you they have some pretty good lawyers. Now, rightly, it seems that they received a lot of backlash for this, and thus changed the policy back to what it had originally said sometime in January. So at this moment, it seems that you do still own the songs that you generate. But if you ask my opinion, they were just testing the waters to see what they could get away with. Oh, and there are a couple other very important lines that you want to pay attention to in this article and the terms of service. The first one is right here. In both cases, referring to which plan you are on. The material may not be eligible for copyright protection. So what do they mean by that? Well, they are essentially saying that they cannot guarantee that what comes out of their machines will be unique enough to not be an infringement on someone else's copyright. So they steal the intellectual property of tens of millions of copyrighted works, use that data to generate new songs, then make people pay for the right to use these new songs, but then can't guarantee that you won't be sued for using them. Good idea. Now just imagine for a second the combination of these two policies. Again, I'll say the first policy of ownership seems to have been changed back for now, but apparently that can just be changed at any time. In this scenario, Suno would get to have their cake and eat it too. If you generate something that has commercial success, Suno could revoke your license and collect your revenue. But if you generate something that infringes on somebody else's copyright, Suno is going to let you take the blame for that. And their justification is right here. Read that line slowly. Writing the prompt does not constitute the creation of the song. This stuff belongs to Suno, whether they want to be clear about it or not. Of course, unless you get sued, then it belongs to you. Sounds like to me that they're both willing to screw over the artist that they have stolen from, allegedly, and the people that actually use their services. This was a great idea, and I'm sure will never lead to any kind of abuse or corruption. According to CBS News, 44% of people can't tell the difference between AI-generated video and real video.
Only 44% of the people that we surveyed said that they think they can tell the difference between AI-generated photos and videos and real ones.
A few years ago, it was easy, but it's getting harder and harder. And according to Deezer Newsroom, a stunning 97% of people can't tell the difference between AI and human music. And this stuff is just going to keep getting more and more convincing. 5 years from now, it may actually be impossible to tell the difference in music, art, and video. You may literally have no idea whether the media you are consuming was created by your favorite artist or musician, or is 100% AI generated and stolen. But the real killer question is here, are people gonna care? Right now, this is a hot button issue, and there are a lot of people speaking out against this. Thank God. But when the initial hate wave dies down and people move on to other things, which they always do, are people going to continue to care? Or will we just be slowly consumed by it like a frog boiling in water? Obviously, the people that are being replaced, the artists, the musicians, the content creators, are the ones that are going to continue to put up a fight, and I say good. If we're going to lose the battle, we might as well go down kicking and screaming. But what about the average consumer? Because if they no longer care, it doesn't matter how much people like me bitch and moan, we're all going down with the ship. And this is a really hard question to answer. I can show you examples right now of people that care deeply, and I can show you examples of people that don't give a shit. And when AI becomes so convincing and is flooding our playlists and social media feeds, I think the average person is eventually going to give up trying to tell the difference and just consume whatever fits their need at that moment. And in terms of the raw numbers of pieces of media that are being produced by humans versus AI, it appears that we are fighting an uphill battle. I've gotten some conflicting information on this, but it seems that the general trend is that AI in 2026 is expected to produce more media than all of humanity combined. And based off general trends, this number is just going to keep going up and up. By 2030, what do you think that percentage is going to be? What about by 2040? And at that point, are we expecting the average music listener or video watcher or article reader to sift through all of it just to find something that might actually be created by a real person? And I'm not really sure that that's a reasonable ask for a busy, hardworking, normal person just looking for a little entertainment online. And when that happens, when the average person no longer cares enough to try to avoid AI or even prefers it because it's so tailored to them, we've lost.
You can have your robot come in and write 10 times more music in a fraction of the time, and then you can superimpose on the screen Suno AI shitting on the little guy.
So where do we go from here? What do we do? I do want to be clear, as much as this video has been doom and gloom, AI has not yet taken over the creative industries. Humans, thank God, still remain the top dogs. AI may already be producing more than us, but there's a reason most people call it slop. We are definitely still winning with quality over quantity. But let's also be realistic. This poses a larger threat to our industries and to human creativity in general than any other piece of technology ever has in history. And in my view, at this time, we're at a fork in the road. We have the choice between a not-so-great future and a catastrophic one. And a lot of what I've outlined in this video would be the worst case scenario. Unfortunately, I think the idea that we can just put the cat back in the bag with AI is unrealistic. If I could flip a switch and turn it off, especially in the creative fields, I would do it. But I don't really think that can happen. The absolute worst thing that we can do is allow this technology and these companies to continue to innovate unchecked and unsupervised. Because this will destroy our industries and put a serious damper on human creativity. The question is not if, it's when. In this scenario, recorded music, digital art, video creation, movies, or any other piece of media that involves a computer will most likely be completely replaced by AI. It's too fast, it's too efficient, and it's too effective. And without any roadblocks, it's going to beat us out. If this happens, digital media of any kind will no longer be able to be trusted in any way. Live music, stage productions, and other performance art will be the last bastion of human creativity, at least until they develop the technology to replace that as well. And myself, like many musicians on YouTube, have a stake in both sides of this. I'm both a content creator as well as a live performing musician. And as much as I would love to see more people show up to classical music concerts or live music in general, I don't think that this is worth the destruction of everything that we've created digitally. Or we have the other future. The future where artists accept that AI is probably here to stay, but we use it in a responsible way. We use AI like a tool, like any other tool that we've used before, such as Sibelius, a digital audio workstation, or Premiere Pro. And when we see AI being abused, we call it out and try to correct the behavior. We stop abusing AI to generate slop content farms or hundreds of bullshit albums to try to make a quick buck. In fact, I'm 100% for not allowing AI-generated content to be monetized at all, but I think that might be a pipe dream. We should demand transparency from both the AI companies and those who use it, to clearly state when something has been AI-generated. And we should demand that when AI is used, it's used in a beneficial way. If it's used to help discover cancer earlier in patients to save lives, I'm all for that. But if it's being used to unconsensually take people's clothes off on Twitter, or if it's being used to generate thousands of slop videos or songs that take away from actual hardworking people, I think something needs to be done about that. I don't claim to be an expert on everything AI could do that would benefit humanity, but I can say that what it is doing to the creative world is bullshit. And I hope in a few years I'm able to look back on this video and say I was just being paranoid. But with the way things are going, I have my doubts. Thanks for watching this video. It was a hard one for me to make, to be honest. I had to stop myself from crashing out a few times during the recording process. If you like my content, consider leaving a like, subscribe, and checking out my Patreon. See you next time.